This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is a Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. And alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
May the fourth be with you, guys.
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
It's a miracle. For the first time in 2 years, Ricky Widmer did not say, what's up, what's up.
What's up, guys?
And for that,
Yeah, you got what you deserve right there.
And I was grateful. But anyways, today we are going to have a boatload of topics for you. We're going to be talking about David Fizdale and can he bring LeBron to the New York Knicks. Then we're going to go into our Wet Boys for the playoffs. It's week 3 of playoff Wet Boys. Then we're going to go to the NBA draft and what Igor Kokoskov, been trying on the pronunciation for about an hour now.
Yep.
Igor Kokoskov means for the Suns draft. Then we're going to go over to Kawhi Leonard. Again, Ricky just wrote an article on the website. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to finish it up with our NBA Draft Lottery 2018 predictions. It's been something we've been doing for the past 3 years. And we're going to try to look into our crystal ball. But before we do that, go over to iTunes and rate us 5 stars. Not only the Fast Break, but the Onside Kick, the Primetime Podcast, the Rick and Johnny Podcast. And I said all of them, Onside Kick and the Fast Break.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all the ones on iTunes. Outcasts are not on iTunes yet, but you can find all of their videos, all their podcasts on the site, mostvaluablepodcast.com, and on YouTube. And while you're on Most Valuable Podcast, head over to the shop and buy yourself some MVP merch. We have the MVP merch, or the MVP t-shirt
I gotta
up
bust
on
that
the
out
store
next
as well.
week.
Yeah, I think we got to start wearing that a little bit more.
Should
but anyways,
we all wear it?
No. We're not going to pull a Buzz and Juice. Even though I love them. Even though I loved them, they did an all-MVP shirt podcast.
We've never had a Fast Break where every single one of us
should
wore the
For
shirt.
good reason. But let's jump into the first topic. That's going to be David Fizdale and the hire of David Fizdale for the New York Knicks. And we're talking, can he bring LeBron to the New York Knicks? And if he can't, what is this team going to look like with the New York Knicks in 2018-2019 and how David Fizdale can run that? So let's start off. Obviously, LeBron and Fizdale have some connections. Fizdale was an assistant coach on the Miami Heat team when LeBron was over there. And LeBron, when Fizdale was fired from the Memphis Grizzlies job, tweeted out, "I need some answers. It feels like my man was a fall guy." And also he said, he spoke out about it the next day saying, maybe that's what it was because because I know he ain't gonna kiss nobody's ass. I know that. So LeBron and David Fizdale do have a connection, and now this hiring, does it really put them in the right spot to go after LeBron James, Dave?
I mean, I think it puts them in a better spot than they were before, because before they had virtually 0%. I'm not gonna be totally honest in that, but basically you moved yourself up into the realm. There's a reason why he could go there. He and Fizdale, good connection, like you said, from Miami. I think they still are pretty close. David Fizdale mentioned they still talk, they still keep up. So I think, yes, having somebody who you can respect as a head coach would be a nice change of pace for LeBron as he's coming off of Ty Lue, who doesn't do anything. And I honestly think that...
Except for bench George Hill. I mean, that was LeBron?
That was LeBron.
That was LeBron.
Don't any credit you want to give Ty Lue, just know he got stepped over.
The coach, the GM, the mayor, the owner, he's everything in Cleveland.
Well, he drew up that play so that they could go to overtime against the Raptors and win that game. He also did that.
LeBron?
Ty Lue.
Oh.
No, Ty Lue, because the game
it was
winner didn't go in.
literally the worst play I've ever seen drawn up in my life. I don't want to go on a rant.
But Ricky, coming back to Fizdale, what does the coaching mean to LeBron James? Do you think that's going to play into a factor? Because we know that LeBron's whole thing is he wants to think about life after basketball. He wants to go to a younger team. That's what we've been hearing about the free agent, or he wants to play with a star. That's why Houston's been in there. Those are the thoughts. But do you think coaching is going to play a factor into this? Because he hasn't really had a great coach in Cleveland so far with Ty Lue. David Blatt really hasn't been getting along with those guys.
How I feel about this is that David Fizdale's great. David Fizdale, the coach of the Knicks, I love the move on that side. Does this hire bring LeBron James to the Knicks? Not a fat chance.
Does it move the needle, though?
Not at all.
So it was 0% and still 0%.
The reason why I say that is maybe I'm crazy for saying this, but not looking at coaching, because yes, Fizdale is a step up than Ty Lue in my mind. Look at the Cavs team. We're complaining right now that, LeBron, they're playing up in some games. JR had a good game. Kyle Korver had a good game. But overall this season, it's this cast of characters hasn't been what LeBron's used to. You think you're going to get anything better than that in New York? No, you're not.
But
you're going to be, instead of JR and Corver and TT and Love, it's going to be Tim Hardaway Jr. and Enes Kanter.
Well, also, Courtney Lee, I don't know if you heard of a guy named Kristaps Porzingis, pretty damn good.
Okay.
Well, Porzingis, too, we don't know. First off, he's going to miss most of the season because usually the ACL's a year long. That'll be like February, and we don't know what he's going to be like coming back.
To be fair,
we don't
NBA
know what the
regular
Knicks'
season,
record is going to be like at that point.
And also Frank Ntilikina. But and also we don't know what the record's going to be, but if they have LeBron James, I think it's going to be pretty decent. And as long as you're in the playoffs, we've seen that LeBron James could do a decent amount of damage.
If LeBron James is going to, like, here's what I think. If LeBron James is going to stay in the East, he's either staying in Cleveland or he's going to Philly.
Ooh.
If he doesn't stay in the East, he's going to Houston. Those are the big three. LA is still an option, but it's a small option.
And one thing I also want to throw in there with the Knicks, too, they have Kristaps, they have Frank Ntilikina, they have some role players in Tim Hardaway Jr., Enes Kanter, and Courtney Lee, and then also they still do have that top 10 pick. So not only could they draft a young player to put around LeBron, there also is that big name of Kawhi Leonard floating around that they could go after. And if they move some cap, let's say a Joakim Noah, or hey, maybe they already try to move a guy like Tim Hardaway because he is a role player and while he hasn't been bad, maybe if they're trying to free up cap space, they could even go after Paul George. I'm just saying, like, New York isn't the team, like the team that you see right now or the team that you saw last year isn't the team that's going to be out there next year.
Yeah.
I feel like right now with the Knicks where it's like, first off, with the whole Kawhi thing, I know with my article, the Knicks were one of those teams because Kawhi said he wanted to go to a big market, or the Spurs fear that he might want that. The thing I feel like with a Knicks-Spurs trade is the big hinging factor is the number 9 overall pick, and that's what's going to do it. However, is this team, let's say Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and LeBron James are your big 3, is that going to be able to compete with Philly? Is that going to be able to compete with a Celtics team that right now without Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward are playing better than we would have thought, and they're getting that experience and could possibly be the best coach team in the East?
Did you just ask if a trio of Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and LeBron James could take down the Boston Celtics?
Let's put it this way. LeBron James is playing great.
Okay.
PG did not look good this playoffs. Did not look
he had a couple
like
good games.
Playoff
and also,
P.
let's put a
maybe like one game of playoff P.
Let's put a facilitator like
and
LeBron James next to him.
Kawhi Leonard has basically taken an entire year off.
Okay, but he was also an MVP candidate before. He's probably the best two-way player in the NBA. And also, hold on. I know he's not healthy.
The other thing into this is,
hold on. That's going to make your fourth option a guy named Kristaps Porzingis, who is one of the best young big men in the league. So, weirdly enough, I'm going to take the team with LeBron, Paul George, Kristaps Porzingis, and Kawhi Leonard.
But here's why
out of any team.
Here's why I'm going to tell you
Western or Eastern.
Here's why I'm going to tell you it's not going to happen, though.
Yeah.
And you mentioned him.
It's not going to happen.
Porzingis.
No.
It's not going to happen because LeBron's not going to sign just a one-year deal. Paul George isn't going to sign just a one-year deal. Really, the only one out of that 3 who's done after a year is Kawhi. And after next season, you got to start re-signing KP, and KP's going to want some money.
Okay.
Or going to earn some money.
But one thing that I'll just throw out there, and again, I'm not looking at contracts right now. I'm just throwing out the fact that, again, Kristaps is on such a small contract that you could possibly make those
deals,
He's got 4.5 this year, 5.6 next year.
Wouldn't you say that having a title in New York, the first time since 1973, would be fine if you aren't going to have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Kristaps? If you're not going to have those big 4 around, if you're able to get a title out of it, wouldn't it be worth it for New York in the first year? In 40 plus years, not having a title, bringing a title back home finally, having LeBron's first year. Again, this is because we're throwing out a team of Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Kristaps Porzingis, and LeBron James. Again, it's not going to happen, but if it somehow happens, I think it's worth it for New York if it's a one and done. Exactly.
It would be worth it if you can.
And you still get LeBron James.
It'd be worth it if you can get all 3. But I think the only one you get is LeBron. And the reason why I say that is, Joakim Noah, they're looking to get that salary off the books. But you still have Enes Kanter, who is probably going to accept his player option. He'll come back at 18.6.
Yeah.
You also have Tim Hardaway Jr.
Well, I was saying they trade Tim Hardaway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that the Spurs are going to want Tim Hardaway Jr. They'll say, fuck it, we'll keep Kawhi. Thanks for offering
us
the trade.
But it's also the 9th.
I know. I think the Spurs in the end go, thanks, but no thanks. We'll keep Kawhi because we don't need to trade him at this point. So you got Tim Hardaway Jr. at 17.3 next year. Courtney Lee's at 12.2. I don't think there's going to be enough room to sign PG. There's
of course
not going to be enough to get the trade for Kawhi. LeBron's the only one you're getting.
Again, like we're saying that everything has to go right for the Knicks for this to happen.
Yeah.
Again, we're not saying this is going to be the team.
Oh, I know.
But I'm just saying. Like,
it's not going to. But I'm saying.
Again,
there's a potential for it happening.
Pathways.
LeBron literally traded an entire team away mid-season.
Not Kobe Elman. LeBron did.
Yeah.
I'm just
also
saying,
different management, different team though. The management in Cleveland's not the same management in New York.
It's arguably better than the management in New York. I'm just saying.
I mean, the owner is not as good as the one in Cleveland, but the management that they brought in to replace Phil Jackson, I would say, is better than Cleveland.
I don't know about that. I would not put my money on that. But my point being,
I mean, they're
it's
both
the
in
NBA,
their first year. It's hard to judge.
Players are heavily tradable. And as we come up to the draft, that number 9 pick gets juicier and juicier for teams. I just think that treating it like it's the only reason is basketball reasons, like there's a reason Carmelo Anthony chose New York. It was not for basketball reasons. It was because it's the Mecca. It was because he could be a superstar, grow his brand, grow himself as a player, and like honestly, like be the face of the NBA. LeBron already is the face of the NBA, but now it's in that fight of like him, Steph. Pretty much those two guys are up at the top. Obviously KD there too, but like he can go to the Mecca, play, and if he can bring them close to or a championship, like I don't even like that would be insane for
And
New
here's
York.
the thing that just popped into my head.
Yeah.
Every single team, so every single one that I said he could go to, except the Cavs, I'll keep them out of it. Go to Philly, New York. Which one seems like a better option? I'm taking Philly. If
Are
I'm
you
LeBron,
talking roster-wise?
I'm talking LeBron adding me to that
course.
team.
Yeah.
Go to
No
Philly.
one's arguing that.
I know. Then you
We're
look
talking
at,
about the potential
I know.
of New York.
Then you look at Houston. I'm going to go to Houston because I can be added with James Harden, CP3, and all that. I would even say that LeBron would look at the Lakers and the Knicks and go, you know what? There's more money in LA. If I want to play with PG-13, I can just bring both of us to LA. Plus, we got the young kids out there doing okay their first year. Kyle Kuzma really showed up this year. We didn't expect that. But, I mean, that could be a better option of getting maybe all three of the guys we're talking about to LA before the Knicks.
And that's fine. And again, it's just throwing it out there that how much will coaching play into this? And also, again, like if you're taking in, the market size, I think LeBron, again, New York is clearly a bigger market than LA. LA's not, small in comparison though.
Yeah.
And also, LeBron has probably, I think, more connections out in LA than he does in New York.
He's got a home in LA.
But yeah, exactly. But the thing is, again, going back, how much will coaching play into it? If we're saying that, I mean, again, we're not saying that this means that LeBron's going to New York. Again,
But it might have moved the needle a little bit.
I think
they went from 0 to maybe 5%.
See, I don't think
I think it moves the
at all.
needle. Again, it's moving the needle because it has a plus over something. It has the biggest market. It has a ton of fans, a loyal fan base, and it also has a coach that trust, and have worked with before. He's never worked with Luke Walton before. He's never worked with Mike D'Antoni before. He's never worked with Brett Brown before. He has that relationship already built with David Fizdale. That's the only reason why I think it moves the needle a little bit. You have to compare these teams. You have to compare what they're going to bring to you. And New York's offering exactly what you need for growing your brand and growing your business and growing your life after basketball, which is something that he's very fond of. And then also it gives you that at least comfortability of being with a coach that you've worked with before. Again, I'm not saying it moves the needle where they're the front runners.
Yeah, I think
it puts them in the
like
conversation.
It depends on what LeBron's priorities really are at this point in his career. If he's trying to do things and set himself up for after basketball, I could see why he could look at New York seriously. If he's trying to win a championship right now, New York's probably not his best chance to do that. So I think we can't read his mind, but I think David Fizdale coming to New York is still huge for the team, even regardless of LeBron.
I think, though, that a player like LeBron, no matter what, his goal is to win a championship because that's everyone's goal each and every year.
But I think that there's also some potential in New York just looking at the roster. Again, they have some bad contracts. Joakim Noah obviously stands out there, but you still have some good role players. Again, Tim Hardaway, even though he has a massive contract, still a good role player. Courtney Lee, a good role player. And you have two young players. Again, Kristaps is obviously dealing with the injury, but we know what he can do when he's healthy. And Frank Ntilikina, I know some people are like, oh, he didn't show anything his first rookie year. New country, new city, new culture, new coach, new everything to this kid. Give him time to grow.
Yeah.
So, again, we don't know what those two guys are. Still a lot of potential in those. And you also have that 9th pick, whether you keep it or not. You're still going to be drafting a guy. If you keep it, you're going to be drafting a kid that's going to be able to grow. But let's just move to Fizdale now in New York because we got to talk about that a little bit because, again, we're saying that LeBron is at most a 5% chance of coming to New York. So what does Fizdale bring to New York that you either like or you dislike, Ricky?
The thing that I relate this to is it's kind of the same thing that I said about Baker Mayfield going to Cleveland. Where when I said, oh, Baker Mayfield gets drafted by Cleveland, great pick for them. He's going to fit in with that kind of culture in there. David Fizdale is a coach that's going to fit in with the culture in New York. Like, think about back with the Grizzlies, the whole take that for data stuff, everything that Fizdale, like his attitude about things, it fits in with New York. It fits in with what New Yorkers are because it's kind of like that, hey, you're going to punch us in the mouth? We're going to punch you in the mouth right back kind of a city, and he's going to fit in. That's why this hire, I love it, because the fans are going to expect that kind of coaching on their players because that's the type of city that they are.
I think that you're pretty much spot on, except that like half-hearted attempt to do a New Yorker accent, which I'm glad you bailed on.
I wasn't trying. I wasn't trying to.
Yeah, but I think you're right though. Like, he has a toughness, he has an edge, and that's what he needs to bring to this team because they're a team who pretty much in the last couple of years have been in like they were just in a really rough place because you're stuck with Carmelo Anthony, and then it was the Phil Jackson drama. And, we're a triangle team. Phil's doing Phil things, passing out practically. They've had so much drama around the team that I think Fizdale's kind of a no-nonsense guy who's going to be like, this is about basketball. This is what's important here. None of this other shit really matters. So I'm really hopeful for what he can do and bring in that defense because you have KP, who is long as hell. You have Frank, who defensively is amazing already.
Was probably the second best, at least, prospect defensively coming out of that draft class last year. Isaac being one with his versatility.
Exactly, and then maybe building up a Moutier. Like there are guys in this team who you can see growing forward, and I think he is a good guy who can be a mentor to a lot of these players and kind of make the direction of the team go in the right direction, and actually go towards a playoff chance. Because honestly, with this whole I'm so sick of the triangle, and I just think the New Yorkers are going to love the fact they don't have to run the triangle, never have to hear about the triangle ever again, and we are done with that shit.
Well, it's a new regime, and I think looking at this hire, I think it's honestly a perfect fit for New York because when we think of New York, we think of New York as pretty much the city in the United States as kind of the cut. Even though we're from Chicago, I think LA will probably throw some out there. New York has always been the city. That's what people think of when they're thinking of a city in the United States. They think of New York. Yeah. It sets the culture for the United States. It sets the culture for sports. And New York has been so backwards, at least when it comes to basketball, and really, outside of the Yankees, just in general, they've been so backwards. Outside of 2 years for the Giants,
I wouldn't talk too much smack about that right now, Sean.
I'm just saying, outside of some luck for the Giants and outside of the Yankees, because obviously the best franchise in baseball ever, obviously there's been some bad luck. And I think this is probably the hire that will at least push the culture in the right direction. Because, A, you mentioned it, Ricky, he's got the mindset that you need for New York, but also he's on the cutting edge when it comes to analytics and implementing that into coaching. And I think that's something that you need. New York is very much a city that is made up of those blue-collar workers, like the city workers, firemen, policemen, all those people that really make up the heart of New York that we think of, like the meatballs, no offense, the meatballs of New York.
Well, those are all New Jersey. The meatballs.
Anyways. But, you still think of those people, like the hard-nosed people in New York, but then also they have that business side. They have that cutting edge. They have that massive market. And that's where the analytics side. I think he's a perfect blend of it, and it's just really how is he going to implement that into the locker room? And I think looking at the players in that locker room, they are still very moldable. I think KP wants a guy like this, like David Fizdale. Frank Nikitalina is going to want a guy who's going to work with him, and David Fizdale knows exactly how to use Frank's skill set. At most, maybe he's a Rajon Rondo, maybe he's like Mike Conley, just a little worse of a scorer. I think that's the top end of a Frank Nikitalina, and that's where Fizdale's going to be able to work with him. I think this is a perfect hire for New York, and I really don't know where it could go wrong for Fizdale. I don't even know where it went wrong in Memphis, and my feelings on Memphis, how they're a piss-poor run franchise.
And that's it. It went wrong in Memphis because their front office is garbage. And I look at Steve Mills, the president now. I look at Scott Perry, the general manager, who he was the one that everyone's talking about. When he got the job, he went over to Latvia and talked to KP and was like, hey, I'm the guy now, and everything's going to be fine. You don't have to run the triangle anymore. And KP went, phew, thank God I don't have to worry about that triangle. But for me, I'm not going to relate it like, oh, this is a cookie-cutter comparison, but it makes me feel like when I talk about his style and his attitude and how he fits in with that New York culture, it kind of reminds me of early 90s basketball that I was growing up with. Like, I looked at Pat Riley, as a Bulls fan, looked at Pat Riley on the Knicks and was like, he's a New York guy. Like, that is a New York coach. That is a New York team. And, like, that's what I feel like this. Although Fizdale, like, yeah, he was born in L.A., he wasn't born in New York, but that kind of attitude, it's like, much like when Pat Riley was there, it's like, yeah.
He feels like the next
job.
generation of coaching, to be honest with you. Like, he seems like the guy kind of leading the charge.
Well, and I think one thing, too, is that even though New York gets such, like crapped on for how many bad coaches they've had, like recently, they haven't
given them chances either.
They have really hit the mark on some of these guys. Rick Pitino, I know he wasn't the right fit, but we've seen they saw the potential in Rick Pitino. I mean, Rick Pitino is an all-time great college head coach, no matter what the way his career's ended.
Yeah.
Pat Riley, like you mentioned it, one of the greatest coaches in NBA history. Don Nelson, one of the greatest coaches in NBA history. Jeff Van Gundy is still around the NBA for a reason. This guy knows basketball. He might not have had a great career in New York, but he's around the NBA still because of his knowledge. He's still thrown out in head coaching vacancies for a reason. Jeff Van Gundy knows basketball. Let's throw out Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni wasn't a great fit with those players, but Mike D'Antoni's still a great coach. And let's even throw out my boy Jeff Hornacek. I know that he really wasn't great, but he was forced with the triangle, and I don't think he got the right cut in Phoenix. I think they still understood that Hornacek could at least do something. And even early in the season, New York wasn't looking like a bad team.
It
was until that KP injury where they started going down the line as well. And then I'll even throw Larry Brown out there. Former NBA champion. Larry Brown knows basketball.
I was going to get a little upset if you didn't bring up Larry Brown.
They know.
I know he didn't go to the playoffs in New York.
I'm like half looking out of my side and half trying to talk on the mic. But again, like I know they've had the Isaiah Thomases. They've had poor decisions before, like Derek Fisher. Like they've made poor choices. But again, I don't think that should reflect the culture. And they found head coaches that know basketball. And Fizdale proved to me, at least in that Memphis first run, that he knows basketball. I just think he needed a learning curve, and now he's learning how to be a head coach, and now he's getting a second chance. I think this is a perfect place for him.
I'm going to relate it to this, and Brandon and I kind of talked about this on the Primetime Podcast when we looked at Jim Harbaugh this week.
Oh, I was about to say, you talked about David Fizdale?
No, we didn't talk about Dave Fizdale, but I mean, you look at the coaches ever since, let's say, Mike Woodson in 2012. You've got Woodson's there for 2 years, Fish is there for 2 years, Rambis isn't even there a full year.
Right.
And then you've got
Rambis was an interim.
Yeah, the interim. And then you got Hornacek for 2 years. Like, you're not going to build up a team when you have a new coach every 2 years.
And what's the common theme there? It's James Dolan. I'm just going to be that guy and say, like, you have a problem up top. You can't address it, really. That's why, so you're stuck. So do you think that, I guess, what do you think that David Fizdale will do that will buck the trend from these guys? Because you're saying these guys aren't necessarily bad at their job, but they're not able to do what they need to do to have a winning team consistently in New York. Is it the players? Is it the draft? Is it the free agency choices? Like, because they don't have they're not in charge of all of that. I think it's coaches
been mostly upper management, and I think obviously Phil Jackson was a corner piece of that. And recently Phil Jackson was a problem, and then I think before that, I know James Dolan isn't a great owner, and I think one large part about Dolan early on was that he was very hands-on. He wanted to control what was going on with the Knicks, and I think the way that he's aged and seen the mistakes that his franchise has been going on, I think that with the hires he's made recently, like Ricky brought up, the new president, the new vice president, all that stuff, of the New York Knicks, he's hiring the right people, and I think he's understanding where his point is as an owner. And I'm not saying that he's going to be a great owner going down the line or that he deserves a break for what he's done in the past. But I think that James Dolan, I think that this is probably the past couple of years has been a learning lesson, at least a lesson for him to learn from. And I think this might be the push that James Dolan needs to at least understand that New York needs a change, and I think he's understanding that.
Well, and for me, like the reason why I'm not so worried about Dolan, and I don't know if I should be or not, and the reason why I say that is the guys that I mentioned that they brought in, like Steve Mills, they hired it was July of 2017 they brought him in. But Scott Perry, the GM now, he's a guy that was in the front office when the Pistons were making their run in the late 2000s. He was a guy that was with the Supersonics the year that they he was a part of that draft that drafted Kevin Durant.
To be fair, like, I mean, Greg Oden. I'm just gonna say it.
I mean, they had a choice. There wasn't a choice outside.
There wasn't a choice, but
it was like, do you want the second best player in this draft class, or do you want the rest of the draft class?
But what I'm saying is that's another thing to put on the resume. And then the last one, he was in Orlando, which, I mean, I can't blame him for wanting a job. Orlando wasn't really going to go anywhere, but it wasn't his fault that they weren't going anywhere. And then he was lastly with the Sacramento Kings, which that's another one where it's like Vlade Divac running the ship over there. I don't know how much of it was
the last
Scott
three
Perry.
on the resume haven't been great.
And
but again,
fair,
he deserves at least a shot because again, it's early.
I think he deserves a shot, but
and
I
also,
wouldn't brag
it all depends
on
on too. Is Dolan going to be able to just back away and let these guys work?
That's what I'm saying. I think he has at least seen that he needs to step back. If he's able to step back, I think David Fizdale has a right cut. We need to wrap this up in a little bit. So just final thoughts here on the Knicks. Was David Fizdale the right choice for New York, Dave?
Yeah, I think he absolutely was the right choice. I think he's the best fit, not only with the culture like Ricky mentioned, but I think that what he can do as a head coach for this team, as far as their player development is concerned, I'm very excited to see, because on this team, you don't have those salty veterans like a Gasol, like Conley, who are ready for, we're playoff worthy every single year. We need to be here, and if we're not, I'm pissed off. I'm letting you know it. And obviously, like you said, they had horrible issues with the Grizzlies front office anyway. So like that whole direction was out of just garbage. So like here, he has a young team. He's got a ton of potential. He's got a couple guys who are on contracts that are and then he's got Joakim Noah he's got to get rid of. But like outside of that, you have a number 9 pick. You have Porzingis. You have a couple of guards who you should be happy with.
Frank Amudier and Trey Burke are still under contract.
Yeah, and Tim Hardaway, like even on the contract he's on, yes, he had a disappointing year from that point of view, but at the same time, he's still a pretty good scorer. Like he's someone who you can just kind of let roll with the ball. I think he's in the right situation to succeed. I do. I honestly do.
Now, I'm going to say one thing, and then I'm going to ask a question really quick after.
Oh, you better make it quick.
Right hire makes the playoffs year 2. Could we see him make the playoffs year 1 with this team?
No.
Maybe an 8th seed.
No.
I highly doubt that.
It's the East, but no.
I know the East is weak, like Dave said.
Because we don't know what the Heat are going to do. We
also don't know what
Hornets are going to do.
KP's going to come back.
Exactly.
And
that's why
the
I'm saying
thing.
year 2 he'll make the playoffs with this Knicks team.
I don't know about that. It's a little bit of a stretch. Pretty bold there. And I know the East is weak, but also we're seeing some potential in the East. So I don't know about that. I think we'll have to see how year 1 goes.
Bookmark it for
I was gonna say
Flashback
Fridays.
But yeah, I think it's gonna have to see how KP comes back, and that's gonna be the biggest cornerstone. And also who they get in the draft. If they get a guy like Trae Young, hey, maybe that superstar will change it. But if they get like a guy like Miles Bridges, we don't know how that guy's going to come over right away. I know people hate Trae Young or love Trae Young, but also that kid's got superstar written all over him if he's able to be in the right situation. But that's neither here nor there. Let us know what you think of the David Fizdale hiring down in the comments below, or tweet at us at MostValuablePod.